Hello and welcome to Kalam Podcast live from Ramallah in the occupied West Bank in Palestine. We're sitting in Sirdab studio today and we're delighted and honored to have Abed Alrahman Shabaneh on the show, a writer and curator. You do a lot of different things. Welcome to Kalam Podcast.
Shukran, many thanks for this opportunity. I really love the chat with you and looking forward for this.
Me too. Abdurrahman, you've written a book called Piles of Metal. This is the English translation, which I misunderstood slightly. I think you've mentioned that some people have maybe slightly misunderstood it. It's a kind of futuristic novel. Some people have called it dystopian. Other people have called it science fiction. And being a Palestinian and being a writer at the same time, I guess people expect you to be inspired by a kind of dystopia that the occupation in Palestine is. But what is this? What is the book about, really? I mean, this novel, Piles of Metal.
I don't know. It's about the future. That's the only thing that I wanted from this experience, actually. I started writing in poetry, and I used to write poetry like as my thing. And at one moment, I decided to write a novel. I had no experience in writing novel. I met with some friends and I asked around, how do you do that? And technically I knew how, but like I never was like consumed or like thinking much about the genre. What should I write in the politics of writing, like how to, you know. And my main question was just to imagine the future in 50 years.
50,
and
yeah.
I had like some assumptions. I started my research on what it looked like, the future, what it looked like. I never thought about it as a Palestinian in particular. The only Palestinian thing about it is me.
And you are from Palestine.
Oh, yes. Yeah, but like it was not like a major thing. It was not
Sure.
like being in Palestine, thinking about the occupation or thinking about countries, borders, because a lot of things did not exist in the future for me, or don't exist in the future for me. Assumptions like even we were discussing language, what it will look like, will be like translating my thoughts and talking to you right now, or like will be like something more intelligent, solving that for us, having an identity, gender, all of these questions, environment. And the main question was like the emptiness for me, the emptiness of the people who will be laid off work. Because in that year, many studies forecast that in the future, one of the main problems that these people, millions or like billions of people, the technology will
It's fully automated luxury communism kind of thing.
What you will do about that?
Yeah.
So that was my main question for the novel. And after finishing the novel, and then I started to get reviews from friends, from the publisher, and from the people around me that like, and I started to feel that like this novel, whether it was like science fiction or futuristic, it's considered a luxury. It's like why you are, as a Palestinian, writing about the future and not mentioning Palestine.
Yeah.
And I remember the moment, or the year I released the novel, 2022. It was in the Palestine Book Fair, and there was like 6 or 7 novels, Palestinian novels, and 2 or 3 from the literature of prison, and others like heavily concentrated about being like the idea of Palestinians or like Palestine or like us being victims. And there was my novel. It's science fiction. It's a fantasy, and it's not a fantasy, but like it was like it's like it was ridiculed so much at that time, and it was like considered for like youth. And people like, oh, this is for young people. I was like, no, I never thought about that.
Yeah.
So all of this journey of experimenting with writing, like I knew about the novel more after I published it. Like, that's how I knew the genre. I knew a lot of things about writing.
Yeah, but obviously, you do a lot of work that has to do with the current situation in Palestine, and you told me just earlier that you worked as an urban planner for 4 years in Jerusalem. How was that? I mean, how yeah, like
Mm.
urban planning in an occupation in a city like Jerusalem.
Yeah, I was born and raised in Jerusalem. And the moment I moved to Birzeit to study, it was like a fully aware decision that I'm moving to Birzeit. Because in the last 2 years of high school, there was like a program within the Hebrew University for Palestinian kids from East Jerusalem, just to collect or of select a selection of students just to assimilate them in the Israeli system.
I see.
And I remember that time the way they were like talking to us, trying to assimilate us, and trying to convince us of things that are not true. Like my parents are just next to the university, and I've the only thing that I took from that situation is like the tear gas that I smelled every week. It's not these ideas that you are promoting now, like, oh, we can live in peace and stuff. And that was like this decision. No, I'm moving to Birzeit. I want to go there and study in an environment. It's a Palestinian environment, and that changed my life entirely. And my main goal was is to go back to Jerusalem and work in architecture and urban planning. That was my, I would say, how to say it, a naive idea of architecture, or my
Right.
naive understanding of
Sure.
urban planning, because I thought, oh, that's what we need.
Yeah.
And the first thing actually I did is going back to Jerusalem. I worked with an NGO that works in urban planning. And I worked there for 4 years. We were spending like months and sometimes a project 2 years to prepare plans for Palestinian neighborhoods. But like day after day, you discover how much is the system is built around like suppressing the Palestinians, suppressing the collective vote of the Palestinian. It's okay to go as a Palestinian to get a permit if there is a chance, but like as a collective, it's forbidden. It's forbidden to unite.
Yeah.
So you can't go as a Palestinian to like an Israeli firm to develop your area. They will happily do it if you have the money, of course. But like as a collective, as a Palestinian, it's forbidden. They will find hundreds of barriers. There's like, I don't remember the number, but like more than 50 laws in the urban planning law that restrict the Palestinian expansion or restrict giving permits to Palestinian in East Jerusalem. I remember once we worked on a program, on a plan. All the plans in Jerusalem, it's from the Jordanian time. It's there are not nothing developed after that. So we worked on a plan for like a certain area just to prepare for the people there to get permits. It's already a built-up area. It's almost a slum. And for 2 years, we worked closely with the engineer, the architect of the municipality, the Israeli municipality. And for 2 years, I was like, oh, let's change this line and change this line. Oh, there's something changed in the policies. And after 2 years, there's nothing missing. And at one moment, and that was the sentence, Netanyahu don't want to. Like he said something like that. It's a political decision.
So this whole
He did.
project.
Yeah. It was like bullshit. It's just a way to divert the the donors' money. I don't know. It's like he said, look, okay, everything is right, but it's a political.
So you worked on this
decision.
this project for 2 years.
Yeah,
and then it was just cancelled.
And they worked on it like almost 3-4 years before me. Before I joined, 3 years before I joined there. The thing is, I remember it's near Barakat. He was the municipal of Jerusalem, the Israeli one. And he was like, oh, you need to wait for Jerusalem to get another mayor. So it's a political area. And I'm telling you about like an already built up area.
Yeah.
And for Israeli, it's a garden, or else it's an open space. It's I don't know. It's yeah.
Wow.
So at that time, and for me, it was obvious how it's useless, this kind of relationship with the occupation, because working on planning, you see even the street network, the way they design it, the way like the entrance to a Palestinian neighborhood, the street is smaller than the standard. And if there is like roundabout, it's slightly tilt, just to divert you. So there is like hundreds of these examples, like small details. It's way complicated than just like a military occupation or like a domination. And like there is like it manifests in everything. So this kind of relationship with my personal relationship with the society, no, I don't want to do that. In the same time, I was active in the cultural field with friends, like in the art exhibition. So I decided, okay, it's time to move back to Ramallah. There is like, at least with all of its negative side, I don't know, with the people, or like after what happened in Oslo, at least in Ramallah there is like this opportunity to think freely, because there is like the one statement I get from my experience working in Jerusalem, that the misconception that Jerusalem is a city.
Yeah, you said earlier Jerusalem is not a city. What do you mean by that?
Jerusalem is not a city. It's not a proper city. Jerusalem is a slum. It's a seven. It's like a number of villages. They put them together to convince Jordan. There's like East Jerusalem for you. East Jerusalem does not function as a city by all means, by all definition. People go sleep in these the Arab or the Palestinian neighborhoods. They work in East Jerusalem or other places. They go sleep in these neighborhoods. There is nothing urban about them. We know that Jerusalem, the urban side of Jerusalem, was in the west side. All of the neighborhoods, Qatamun, Shara Yafa, all of these neighborhoods, there was like the proper, and they were not Jewish or like Christian or like Muslim. It was like intermixed. It was not. The planning was going to the west, but like after the 48, they gave the more appropriate, or the city itself, to the Israeli state, and for the Palestinians, it was like, okay, take the villages. It was not even on the planning. All the plans, all the urban plans for Palestine, they never expanded to the east. They never expanded to the east. This was the most, all the plans were suggested to, from the Ottoman time, actually. It was to the west of Jerusalem.
Why is that?
Because the terrain, the
better?
It's more up. It's to the west. It's how to say it? It was more appropriate for roads. It's like the connection of West Jerusalem to Java.
Right.
The connection. It was more appropriate for like urban planning.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also to the east of Jerusalem, it's the condition of the lands were more complicated, because they are like villages control them, while to the west were like, I would say, big landowners who can easily move around with land parcels and to create, like it happens in every city, were easier to develop.
Sure. Yeah, of course.
The city. So in Jerusalem, what is remained now, that's why I started to think it's when they talk about a peaceful resolution, when they we will give you East Jerusalem, there's nothing to give. Actually, there is not. The Jordanian actually tried to create a city out of what remains, but like they did not have the time for it. And from after the 67 till now, it's you can compare. There's like studies actually comparing the East Jerusalem neighborhoods with any kind of like a slum city, or like these kind of neighborhoods outside of the city center. They don't function as a city.
You briefly mentioned some small examples of architecture, or how architecture is affected by occupation and how occupation is designed, but could you give us some more examples or ideas of how one would design occupation?
Occupation, like you can see it in everything. I will start with how Palestine was a testing ground for a lot of, I would say, ideologies or examples from Europe mid-19th century.
Mm-hmm.
All of, if you look at the settlements actually, Palestine was a testing ground. If you look at the settlements, there was like many cases where testing an example of what is like, how to say it, a utopian community would look like. I don't remember the name of the exact settlement, but like you can find it in many places. So they started to build modules and to try to present these modules in Europe to attract.
This is kind of like gated communities, or
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
For example, one of these examples is like the Garden City.
Mm-hmm.
It's an urban planning concept. It exists in Europe, and it was developed, I think, in England, where they thought, like in the late 19th century with the Industrial Revolution.
Yeah.
So you need to create a community. So you need to create it around like greenery. Greenery should be back into the city. So cities should consist of this circular modules where, in essence, it's a green unit. And that's one of the main examples of the way Israelis now implement settlements. This green unit that is a center of a utopian community. That's one way to look at how architecture or planning. In some cases, the way they, of course, you may know, like Tel Aviv itself. Tel Aviv itself is an example of the Bauhaus movement. It's
Yeah.
So it was like an example. It was a famous. They tried to implement it. It's a famous example of an architectural movement. So all of these European-centric movement, architectural or urban movement, they were like translated or like slightly modified, just to attract people. Like, this is Europe.
Yeah. Okay.
This is Europe. This is Europe. That's why it failed. It failed with the Eastern Jewish people. It failed with the Ashkenazim. It's failed. It's miserably failed. And the way Israelis, or like the Jewish people who were Arabs, did not fit with this system of until I think the 70s or 80s even. I would call them Arab Jews or Palestinian Jewish people.
Yeah.
They didn't fit at all in the Israeli community.
Sure,
Until they reach a point where they were like totally brainwashed. Like, I remember this, my grandmother from my mom's side, she used to live in Hart al-Sharaf, which is next to Bab al-Magharbe.
In the old city.
Yeah.
Of Jerusalem.
And she's like always this sentence string in my head. Like, she tells our neighbors were Jewish, Palestinian Jews. They used to speak Arabic.
Yeah.
And she tell me, like, we used to play together until one day her mother, when she was like a little kid, her friend did not allow her to play with my grandmother. And they did not know why.
Just one day.
We were like this, like 100 years ago. We were not aware of this project. And people were like they did not know what to do. And the thing is, oh, sorry, I can't keep talking.
No, go ahead.
But like, because architecture is always like our planning or trying to look at the city from above, always take me back to these examples, like why we are doing that.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, and we can't. Sorry, I'm a bit. But like, I'm trying like to think of other like explicit examples. The way the placement of settlements, the way they for resources, the placement of roads system, all of these what was already planned, and the way they plan it. And I've sat with some of the Israeli planners. It's the military basically who has the final decision. It's like the security forces who has the final.
Settlements are always on a hill, right?
Even the I'm talking precisely on the street network.
Okay.
Because if it's you can see it vividly in Jerusalem, that the way they control each neighborhood with maximum 1 or 2 choke points.
Okay.
It's designed like this now. For example, Tur, they can close from 2 points. Shafat, 2. Ras Al Amud, 2.
Right.
It's always like this. It's planned like this. and that's the most obvious thing. We can go to the laws that implement the permits that you will never get. There is like many examples, like it's written in the law, even like you can't be there. You're not allowed to be there.
This to a lot of people in the West, I think this sounds dystopian. It sounds like even this reality sounds like, you know, some kind of futuristic novel where there is an evil power oppressing innocent people.
You know, this is the exact example that I give now. The thing that you said, like after 7th of October, I was not able to write anything, like even a note, even like
Really?
taking a note. No, but like a month ago, I had this example in my head. Actually, I wrote a small article about it. This is the only thing that I managed to write. Is this resemblance of our case to a dystopian film?
Yeah.
Because I felt that as Palestinians, we are now in that moment of the film, all of them, you know, all of these sci-fi or like films where like there is this moment of it's the absolute when the hero of the film loses, like when
Yeah,
he
yeah,
knows
yeah.
that everything that he fought for is nothing.
Yeah.
Like when Neo in the Matrix stood and was like he lost, like there is like he lost his eyesight,
Yeah.
and he lost. Like the fight is not what he thinks it is.
Yeah.
When like a planet of apes, like he like kneeled in front of the
Statue of Liberty.
yeah, like this moment when
When all seems lost.
yeah, I felt it's 7th of October is the same moment for us, because the context that produced 7th of October is no longer there. Everything is lost.
The status quo, you mean?
No, yeah, everything is lost because the dominant power, which is the occupation Israel, the Zionist movement in general, the whole world now, in this moment, they become like extremely brutal. And in this moment, I started to think it's the same as the movies, like the enemy or the oppressor wants to act or like to present his supremacy, like
Yeah.
to show it in a very violent way.
Yeah.
And at that moment, the hero in these films, like when he experienced the loss of everything, he changes. And I think in these, I don't know what will happen next, but I think in these months, still we are in that moment of feeling entirely lost.
Yeah. Do you still feel that now?
Yeah, of course. Sometimes I feel grounded in some places, but like I think it's understanding was what happened exactly and the repercussions, because it's not finished yet.
Exactly. We're still in the middle
of
it.
It's yeah, and it's expanding day by day. So I think what will happen is not important. That's why the last sentence I managed to write is like, we may as Palestinian we may be extinct,
yeah.
but we'll never lose.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because the terms or the definitions does not work. Yani, being to lose or to win, it's not the case here. But we may be extinct as Palestinians, for me. That's the way. I know it's a bit dark, but like a bit dark. It's totally dark, sorry. But like that's the feeling I get, like as a Palestinians, like everything we know about Palestine, a state, no state, Palestinians, our right to, because we spent tens of years after, like from the 70s till now, to try to prove to the world, like, oh, we have narrative, we have stories to tell, we exist here, we exist there, we had history, please accept us. But now you discover, no, that is not the case. Like something is bigger than us.
Well, you were telling me earlier that you're working on recording testimonies from people about their thoughts because of this moment that we're in, that we've just been talking about. Has anything struck you as like something that someone said that shocked you or that made you think twice?
So far, I try not to I try to take myself away from these testimonies. We, we started recording, but like we've been trying to do that like the last couple of months, but I, I, it's a bit hard, you know. There's a lot of of like things that change. People change. Everyone. Well, I'm talking to anyone I'm talking with. Like people changed, like from their core. Like not something like a habit or something. They changed, and it's not about like incidents or like a routine that changed. So I don't know what is it.
What the change
Yeah,
is.
I don't know. So I can't actually tell you about like a specific thing, but like it's bigger than me.
Yeah.
That's what I know. It's huge.
Some kind of
But
spiritual change
yeah,
almost.
so like trying to deal with it in the tools that I have from my experience as a curator or as a writer or like socially active in certain parts, like it doesn't work.
Yeah.
It's failed. For me, it's yani, every time you try to do something or like try to understand what is important, what is not. I know it's 10 months now, but like still I feel actually clueless. Like I don't have
Yeah. Yeah, I understand that. I can imagine that for sure. You said that you haven't been able to write anything except this one article since the 7th of October. But is there anything? I mean, are you working on anything? Like, can one work on something? Maybe other. I mean, I know that you're a librarian as well, but is there something creative that you can work on in these conditions?
I've been working on an art on another novel actually. It's been like since 3 years.
Okay.
And this novel is about trying to understand, but like I was trying to understand what what does society mean in the Israeli and the Palestinian case, trying to
Mhm.
understand the manufacturing of national identity
Yeah.
through this experience. But I think I like a couple of days ago, I went back to read what I wrote. I almost was like in the middle of it, and now like I can't feel I don't relate to it anymore.
Wow.
You know, and so it's a bit complicated.
Yeah.
And one of the issues, like I have another novel that I finished in the Corona time, the
Mhm.
happier times.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
I
crazy to
finished
say that.
another
Yeah.
novel. Yeah, it was now
Yeah.
compared to what we are going through,
Sure. Yeah.
and it's ready. It was supposedly to be published in the coming months. And actually, going back and read that text and thinking how much it relates, because my main concern at this novel, for example, is like in the art in institutions and the way institutions reshape and reform arts in a way it doesn't mean what what does it mean what it's supposed to mean,
Yeah.
and how culture and art lose their meaning in an institutional world. And I'm trying to experiment with that, and it's ready and it can be published. But I was thinking, what the hell does that mean now? So I don't know. Working on something. Sorry. Now it's a bit complicated. But on the other sides, trying to be, for example, the project that you mentioned, just recording testimonies now. It's not my thing to do, but like I have to do it. Like
Yeah.
I feel it's a duty now, just to take that part. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we'll all, I guess, everyone that has some kind of stake or is interested in the Palestinian issue will continue to try to understand the situation or the moment that we're in right now. But for now, I want to say thank you so much for coming on Kalam podcast and taking the time to speak with us and trying to at least together understand what's happening.
Shukran. I think there's a lot of things stuck in my head, you know, all of them trying to find a way to go out.
Yeah.
But I think it's a nice exercise just
Sure.
to try to do it. And many thanks for you.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Welcome.
Habibi.